In 2012, 2 families left the city along with the conveniences of modern American living. It's today that these 2 families have relocated themselves in the mountains of the American Ozarks to build for themselves a more sustainable and fulfilling lifestyle.
We are An American Homestead!
This week on An American Homestead, the homestead practices their fire drill in case an emergency would ever arise. What if first responders couldn't reach the homestead in time? Also, a lightning strike takes out a power inverter and we go ahead and replace it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to visit us online at anamericanhomestead.com.
Well, our project for this summer is to build a meat smoker. It's going to be a cold smoker. You see in the background I have a tarp over the floor of the smoker. I'm in the process of digging a trench for the heater. We're going to put a 55-gallon drum heater in the ground. And so I'm working on a trench and working on the water flows so the water will drain off the mountain and away from the cold smoker. This project's going to probably take us pretty much the summer. After I dig the trench, I have to put some rock on the sides so the dirt doesn't erode into the trench, and then get the drum in and then build a smokehouse. So we're probably looking most of the summer to get this done, along with some of the other projects we have planned.
I'm making peanut butter chocolate chip cookies that everybody likes, and those are for our dinner on the weekend. Every week I make a dessert for Friday evening dinner, and everybody likes my cookies and my desserts. I have been making cookies especially, and cakes from scratch for about the last 10 years because I quit buying mixes, and what cookies I did buy at the store, I just quit buying those because I figured they have too many additives, and I want to know what goes in my food, and so I like making it from myself from scratch.
We've hit the full heat of summer and it's hot. But you know what? The sun is good because I can use it for heating water, and I can use it to charge our solar lights, which is really good because it's a way of generating electricity and being self-sufficient. So this summer I'm taking advantage of my solar oven. I didn't get a chance to use it much last summer because someone gifted it to us at the end of the summer. But I'm loving it, and it's heating hot water so hot that I bring it inside and pour it in my sink, and I can barely touch the water. So I have to add room temperature water to it. I'm really impressed with how hot it gets the water. And so I'm not having to heat water in the house. I can do all of my hot water in my solar oven. So in the morning, I'll load up my solar oven with 4 bottles of water, as well as my red raspberry leaf tea. And I'm making the tea. It has so many health benefits, and it's really easy to steep it in the solar oven. The water gets hot and I take it out at the end of the day and it cools down, and then I'll drink it the next day. So when I load up my solar oven, it's not in the full sun yet, but in an hour or so it will be. And then usually by noon, it will be very hot in there. I just keep it in there all day though, because I'm ready to use the water around dinner time, and I'll do my dishes usually while I'm making dinner, and then I'll finish up the dinner dishes afterwards with a little bit more hot water. In the winter, we love using our lanterns, and we use kerosene in our lanterns, and we've made videos about them in the past. Well, in the summer, you don't want any added heat in the house, and actually the lanterns do put out a good amount of heat. So to keep the heat in the house reduced as much as possible, in the summertime, we use the top of a solar yard light. I know that you probably are all familiar with these. What I've done is just taken the top off. There are a lot of tutorials online that you can find to modify these to fit into a mason jar. I have not done that. I don't think it's necessary. I like just having the top of it because I can rotate it around the house and use it wherever I need it. I'll just pop it on top of a jar, or even a glass. Even a drinking glass works just fine. Just like that, and it puts out a good amount of light in the room. So if you're interested in a craft, there are so many tutorials on modifying these to fit a jar, but I just love to just take the tops and charge the tops and then bring them inside and put them in on top of whatever I have available. These are some of the things that we are doing in the summer to be as self-sufficient as possible. We're using what we have.
About a month ago, we experienced a little bit of a snafu on the homestead. We had a lightning strike that occurred somewhere in the vicinity of the wind turbines. And the wind turbines are fine. I think that it occurred somewhere within the vicinity of the wind turbines because we had an electrical fence that was going around that area. And just with the wind turbines being in the location that they're at, it blew an inverter for the battery bank that goes to our greenhouse. And the inverter was the Samlex 1000 watt power inverter. Here it is right here, and it just was toast. And I tried to do whatever I could to go out and see, call the company and see if there was a way I could maybe send it to the company so that they could work on it to get a replacement, and that just wasn't possible. They said that, you know, if lightning hit it, and they took me through some steps to do some troubleshooting, and it's toast. So there's not really much you can do with it. I opened up the back, you know, I replaced the fuses and tried a couple different things that they talked me through over the phone, and nothing worked. And so it's just basically a really expensive piece of metal at this point, heavy piece of metal. So we had to go out and get something new, and we had a replacement. We all usually have a spare of everything around here, at least one spare. And we didn't have a spare 1000 watt inverter. We did have a spare 600 watt inverter that's actually for the office, and so we threw that inside the bank for the greenhouse, and it's very much under power, or very, very small for the type of power it needs to be able to deal with in the greenhouse. And so what I had to do every night, because it's only a 600 watt inverter, it can't handle a full load of all of the pumps running, plus the air pump going on in there, plus anything else I want to run. So basically I have to run the water pumps by themselves and then run the air pump by itself. And so at night, I turn off the system and I turn on the air. Well, one night I forgot to turn the air on, and that means the fish weren't getting the oxygen they needed to be able to stay alive in the tanks. And we had a bit of a fish kill off during one of the days after our inverter went down. And not all of them died, but a good majority of them did. And it just goes to show, you know, when things happen around here, it's just we've had losses here and there on the homestead, and they're tough when they happen. But it's a learning experience, and you learn to adapt and overcome, and you figure out what works, what doesn't, and how to put in place precautions in case something does happen. You know, that's just learning with experience. It comes with experience. And so what we've decided to do is we went ahead and got a new inverter. We're getting a more powerful air pump that we can use because we do have extra energy because of the wind turbines are functioning great and they're providing extra energy. But we have a new inverter we're going to be installing. We'll be coming up with a secondary one just as a backup for this one in case we ever need to. And then we're coming up with a more powerful air pump so that the fish can thrive and continue to grow no matter what. Even, you know, while if the system goes down, I can always throw on the backup inverter and keep the airflow to the fish. And so, because we are overstocking a little bit, no doubt about it. And so I talked with my friend over at My Aqua Farm. His name is Travis Huey. He runs myaquafarm.com. He's a supporter of An American Homestead. You can find his banner ads on our website. And you know, he basically gave me a rundown on, you know, what I need to be looking at when it comes to stocking levels inside my fish tanks. And I'm overstocking. I mean, you know, and that comes with some risk. You know, if the payoff can be big if you don't have any snafus, but if something happens, like a few weeks ago before this, we had an air pump, one of the air hoses off the pump just snapped off. It just got old and rotted and just popped off. And the fish started to list a little bit, you know. And so we caught it in time, but, you know, it was close. So, I mean, things happen. You just have to make sure you constantly be checking your gear, checking your equipment, it just goes. I mean, you can't run a homestead and have a full-time job out, you know, in the city somewhere where you're not on the homestead monitoring what goes on here. You just can't do it. You've got to be involved with your homestead. So the whole point of this is what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and switch out the 600 watt inverter that's inside the battery bank box with this new 1000 watt inverter and get the system fully back up and operational again so that we have no worries. Because right now the system with the small inverter that we have is completely underpowered, and we need a good 1000 watt inverter like we had before the lightning strike occurred. This was the Samlex 1000. It's a 24 volt inverter. This is the Meanwell 24 volt inverter. It's a pure sine, true sine inverter and 1000 watts, and so this is going to replace the one that blew. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this should be a pretty easy install. We've unpackaged the new inverter that's going to be going in there. This is the smaller 600 watt inverter. It's going to be taken out, and we'll go ahead and plug the new one in to where this is at. But before we do anything, we got to go ahead and shut the system down. And that means first, basically disconnecting everything, turning everything off that can be turned off. So first thing we'll do is we'll shut the solar panels off over here. We'll flip the breakers and turn those off so there's no more power coming in from the solar panels into the charge controller here. And then we're going to go over here and shut the batteries off by flipping this breaker off. And that kind of shuts the system down, shuts the charge controller off. And then the last thing we're going to do is go ahead and shut off the inverter. So we're going to turn that off now. So everything is basically shut down now. So next thing we got to do is just unplug this, get this up here, and then we're going to go ahead and unbolt the two cables that are in back of the inverter coming into this inverter, and then get them ready to be wired into the new inverter. Pretty simple. All right, what we're going to do first off is make sure that the inverter is in the off position, which it is, and then we're going to go ahead and start plugging these wires back in. Okay, so everything's hooked up, it's running, it's working. I got the pumps plugged into the inverter, it's going well. I'm going to go ahead and turn the batteries back on, turn the solar panels back on over here, put the breakers on. The charge controller is powering back up. It'll run through a series of checks and then begin to transfer power from the solar panels back into the batteries like it was doing previously. And we'll go ahead and check the battery voltage after it takes a minute to reset. Okay, so the charge controller is reset. It's now at 25.4 going to 25.5. It's going to continue to rise, probably get up to about 26, 27 volts. As the sun's not completely over the panels anymore, it's now in the western side of the sky. But we're at about 10.8 amps, and we're pulling in about 276 watts from the panels at this point right now. And so it's just going to continue to feed the batteries. It's going up a little bit. So pretty good. It's doing great. So now we have the power to run both the pumps, the air pumps, and the water pumps in the greenhouse. But whereas before, that smaller 600 watt inverter, we couldn't do both. I had to do either one or the other, which really put the fish in danger. The only thing I still have left to do is go ahead and hook up the ground cable, which is this green wire here. That requires an Allen wrench that I don't have on me right now. I'll have to go get one, and I'll go ahead and plug that in, and we'll be done. So there you go. We just switched out a new inverter that we had to replace because of a lightning strike here on the homestead. So that's how it is on the homestead. You have good days and bad days. We have lightning strikes, you know, and everything I ever looked up on said the lightning strikes were pretty rare. For the height of our towers, and the towers weren't damaged. The wind turbines, when the wind is blowing, is still putting out power like it was before. The only damage was the inverter, and everything I've read says the inverter is usually the first thing to go when a lightning strike hits nearby. So it's just the cost of playing the game. It's not totally self-sustainable because you have to go out and you buy a new inverter, you know, when you need one. But we're going to continue to have a backup if we ever need it. But it is what it is. And you know what? It's been 2.5 years, 3 years, and I haven't had one electric bill. So I think that's a bonus. Living off-grid on a homestead so far away from towns and suburbs and cities, we've come to realize a couple of things. One of those things being so far away from the towns and suburbs and some of the comforts that the people who live there enjoy has made us realize that we need to do a couple of things on our own. One of those things I'm talking about is fire protection. We cannot rely on a fire department to come out here if there was a fire to put out a fire that was in one of our homes. We couldn't do it. They wouldn't get here in time. Since we've lived here over the last 2.5 years, there have been 2 houses in our area that have caught fire and they have burned to the ground. There's no response time whatsoever for the fire departments that are in the area. They're all volunteer fire departments, and they're just too far away. Their response time is at least 30 minutes, probably an hour, who knows, but it's just not enough time, and so they can't respond. Anyway, that being said, we've realized we've had to make sure that we do our due diligence when it comes to fire protection and fire prevention here on the homestead. One of those things is easy. We keep fire extinguishers in the houses. We have a couple of those, and also we make sure our smoke alarm, smoke detectors have fresh batteries all the time. They're checked, every 6 months to a year to make sure that they're in good working order. We make sure that our wood stoves are clean and kept up to date and inspected. We make sure we know how to inspect them. We know how to make sure they're in good working order before we start to use them in the fall and in the winter. And so we make sure that we can do as much fire prevention as possible on our own. But one of the other things that we have discovered that we can do is something that we saw on another homesteading channel. His name is Wrangler Star. And he's got a really good modern homesteading channel. And he did an episode a while back of him and his wife testing out a pump, a fire transfer pump, or a water pump, water transfer pump, to be used to put out a fire that may occur on the homestead. I thought that this was a great idea, and what I wanted to do was go ahead and try the same thing here on our homestead. We have a 4x4 Toyota pickup truck. It's a 1982 4x4, and the previous owner used to use it all the time for rock climbing and different Jeep courses and things like that. It's a really rugged and well-built truck, and we have a 275-gallon water tank in the back of it. And also in the back of it, there's an 8.5 horsepower water transfer pump that is pretty powerful inside the back of that truck that we can use to move water around the homestead. We use it to move water to the animal water tanks, to the aquaponics system in the greenhouse. We use it for a variety of tasks on the homestead. But we've also come to realize that this would make an excellent way to put out a fire if we needed to put a large amount of water on something very quickly. And so we decided to go ahead and do a drill. So what we're going to do is do a drill and check out the response time of what it takes to get that tank filled up with 275 gallons of water, and then take that and put it on a location on the homestead. And we're going to use the outhouse location on our homestead and try to see how fast it's going to take us to get that tank filled up and move it to that outhouse and put out an imaginary fire. So let's start the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so crisis averted and our outhouse is saved. So good drill, good practice. So that was a pretty good experiment. It took us about 5 or 6 minutes to go ahead, get that truck over there, get it filled up, and then move it over to the location of the outhouse. Now, if this wasn't a real emergency, the location of our well is actually closer to the houses than it is the outhouse, so it would probably take us a little bit less time, but it would easily allow us to move a large amount of water and put it on a fire very quickly if we needed to, in a short amount of time. And so that, I think doing these things and having this ability to put out a fire and have a water transfer pump on the homestead is a big bonus. Now, actually, we have 2 of these water transfer pumps on the homestead, and our long-term goal is to have water for each house, a very good 1,500 gallon tank or a 500 gallon water tank on the side of each house, and allow that transfer pump to sit inside of a protected area next to those water tanks, so that if for some reason a fire ever broke out in the houses, we can immediately go outside, turn on that transfer pump, and put water on the house immediately, saving a lot of time. There's no way a fire engine and a fire crew could get out to our homestead in any sort of reasonable time fashion. It's just not possible. We live too far out in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's going to very much benefit us to go ahead and prepare now to have that stuff pre-positioned, and so that in case a fire ever took place, we could be able to put a lot of water on it quickly.
I'm about to do dishes, so I'm ready to get my water out of my sun oven. You'll see it's in a different position than when I put it here this morning. That's because I changed its position relative to the sun in the sky. I always want to make sure it's facing the sun as much as possible. Wow, it's so hot I can hardly even touch it. I brought my oven mitt. I'm gonna leave the rest in later to use for showers. Zach and I love a cold shower in the summer, but the boys don't. So I put a little bit of warm water in their shower. So that's how I heat water for dishes. It's super hot, I can hardly even touch the water, so I'm gonna have to add more cold water or room temperature water. So that's how we do the dishes.
So thanks for tuning in again each week. We really appreciate people who share our videos and like us on Facebook. Hey, listen, if you have a question that you would like answered from An American Homestead, we've given you an opportunity on how you can do that. You can go to our website, anamericanhomestead.com, and go to our contact page. And if you go to our contact page, you'll see a little Fiverr link on the contact page. You can click that link and sign up for a time for us to meet with you online, and we can communicate with you via Skype or Google Hangouts or simply just by phone and answer any questions that you might have to ask us. And that way it gives us a little bit better face-to-face to maybe help you out with some issues. We get a lot of questions about how to start a homestead, what's the first thing I should look for. And see, the thing is, it's really hard to respond to each one of these questions because the answers can be so different based on the information that you give us. And so we really want to help you out with your homestead dreams and acquiring some of the things you want to get for your homestead and how to go about certain things. And, we're learning too. This is all a learning process for us as well as it is for you. So if you have questions and you would like to know the answers to some of the things that we're doing here, or you want to know that maybe some of the best advice we can give you on how to start a homestead, go to our contact page on anamericanhomestead.com and sign up for our Fiverr gig, and you can schedule a time to meet with us, and we'll get some of your questions answered. All right, we'll see you next time on An American Homestead.